Hi, thanks again for joining me for reading through the Bible, and particularly right now we're reading through the New Testament in the Gospel of Matthew. And so I'm going to start in chapter 22, and I'm reading from a Catholic version of the Bible. Let me hold that up for you so you can see the front page here. It's called the Douay Reims, or the Douay Reims version. This one is particularly is copyrighted in 1950. And in fact, this is the page that is called the imprimatur. This usually shows you that it has been prayed over and blessed by a priest. In fact, this one says Francis Cardinal Spellman, Archbishop of New York. This was April 10th, 1950. So it's always fascinating to read through different versions of the Bible. If you don't know much about the Douay Reims Bible, in my description, I'll have a link to the Douay Reims Bible website where you can actually look it up and read it online for free. It's an excellent scripture. It was translated from the Latin Vulgate into English. That's the Douay Reims, those two individuals. And it was revised by Bishop Challoner. And the Latin Vulgate was translated from the Hebrew, Aramaic, and the Greek by Jerome around 300 plus sometime. 350, I think. Don't hold me to that. I don't remember. I'm just doing that by memory. So without any doubt, without any hesitation, let's start now. Matthew chapter 22 in the Douay Reims version. Ready? And Jesus addressed them and spoke to them again in parable, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a king who made a marriage feast for his son, and he sent his servants to call in those invited to the marriage feast, but they would not come. Again he sent out other servants, saying, 'Tell those who are invited, behold, I prepared my dinner. My oxen and fatlings are killed, and everything is ready. Come to the marriage feast.' But they made light of it and went off, one to his farm and another to his business, and the rest laid hold of his servants, treated them shamefully, and killed them. But when the king heard of it, he was angry, and he sent his armies and destroyed those murderers and burnt their city. And then he said to his servants, 'The marriage feast indeed is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the crossroads and invite to the marriage feast whomever you shall find.' And his servants went out into the roads and gathered all whom they found, both good and bad, and the marriage feast was filled with guests. Now the king went in to see the guest, and he saw there a man who had not on a wedding garment. And he said to him, 'Friend, how didst thou come in here without a wedding garment?' But he was speechless. Then the king said to the attendants, 'Bind his hands and feet and cast him forth into the darkness outside, where there will be weeping and the gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen.' Then the Pharisees went and took counsel how they might trap him in his talk. And they sent to him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, 'Master, we know that thou art truthful, and that thou teachest the way of God in truth, and that thou carest not for any man, for thou dost not regard the person of men. Tell us therefore, what dost thou think? Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar or not?' But Jesus, knowing their wickedness, said, 'Why do you test me, you hypocrites? Show me the coin of the tribute.' So they offered him a denarius. Then Jesus said to them, 'Whose are this image and the inscription?' They said to him, 'Caesar's.' Then he said to them, 'Render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's.' And hearing this, they marveled, and leaving him, they went off. On that same day, some of the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him and questioned him, saying, 'Master, Moses said, if a man die without having a son, his brother shall marry the widow and raise up issue to his brother. Now there were among us 7 brothers, and the first, after having married a wife, died, and having no issue, left his wife to his brother. In like manner the second and the third, down to the 7th. And last of all, the woman also died. At the resurrection, therefore, of which of the 7 will she be the wife? For they all had her. But Jesus answered and said to them, You err, because you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God. For at the resurrection they will neither marry nor be given in marriage, but will be as angels of God in heaven. But as to the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. And when the crowds heard this, they marveled at his teaching. But the Pharisees, hearing that he had silenced the Sadducees, gathered together, and one of them, a doctor of the law, putting him to the test, asked him, Master, which is the great commandment of the law? Jesus said to him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with thy whole heart, and with thy whole soul, and with thy whole mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. And the second is like it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these 2 commandments depend the whole law and the prophets. Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus questioned them, saying, What do you think of the Christ? Whose son is he? And they said to him, David's. He said to them, How then does David in the Spirit call him Lord, saying, The Lord said to my Lord, Sit thou at my right hand, till I make thy enemies thy footstool. If David therefore calls him Lord, how is he his son? And no one could answer him a word. Neither did anyone dare from that day forth to ask him any more questions. Thank you for joining me in the